go ahead and take out a blank sheet of paper and we're going to draw out your plan for buying your first rental, your first profitable rental in 2025. Hi, my name is Ryan Chaw, your friendly neighborhood pharmacist and real estate investor, and I help others who are just getting started in real estate to get their very first profitable rental. So in this video, we're going to draw out your plan for 2025, as I mentioned. I'm going to go ahead and use a whiteboard just so it's easier to see. At the very top of your piece of paper, you're going to want to write cash flow or appreciation. So at the top, you'll say cash flow or appreciation, and you're going to go ahead and only circle one of these, the one that you prefer. Now, in deciding which one you prefer, the best question that I found to ask yourself is, in 5 years from now, would you rather have replaced your W-2 income, or would you rather be a millionaire? Now, you could potentially be both, of course, but if you were to pick one or the other, what is more important to you? To have enough income to replace your W-2 or to have a very high net worth? Now, in real estate, there's two ways to make return on investment, of course. There's the cash flow and there's the appreciation. So you really have to decide which one am I going to go for, because they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but when you buy real estate, you usually have more of one versus the other. So let's say you're buying a lower cost property, for example, that usually will cash flow more because when you have a lower cost property, your mortgage payment's also lower, which usually boosts up your cash flow significantly. Versus, let's say you're going for appreciation, usually properties that appreciate more, like let's say in San Francisco, they're usually costing a lot more when you're buying that property. So that means the mortgage payment is higher, which also means your cash flow is less. So they're kind of inversely proportional. The more cash flow you have, the lower appreciation you might get. Now, I'll tell you what I went for, but you don't necessarily have to copy me. I went for appreciation, and that's because I was okay working my pharmacist job for the next 8 to 10 years. I already knew that I was going to be sticking with my W-2 for quite a while. So what I went for is a higher net worth over replacing my income. And that allowed me to actually scale faster in the long run because I was building up a lot more equity on the properties that I purchased in California. However, let's say you're in the position where you want to replace your W-2 really quickly, as fast as you can, and you want to be able to retire early and live off of your rental income. Well, then you might want to go for cash flow instead, because that seems to be, more important to you than having a higher net worth. So decide what you want to do. Do you want to be a millionaire in 5 years, or do you want to be able to replace your job income in 5 years? What out of those two is more important? Just realize that after 8 to 10 years, most likely you will have both. You'll probably be a millionaire and have replaced your W-2 income. But this exercise is still very important because you want to know what your long-term goal is. Now, let's say you are going for higher cash flow. One recommendation I have is, at least in 2025, you want to be buying houses in the $200,000 up to $350,000 price range. Because if you go higher than that, usually your mortgage payment will be much higher, which will lower how much net income that you take home at the very end of the day. However, also keep in mind the fact that cash flow almost never is greater than your appreciation. Because think of it this way. Let's say I invest in California and the appreciation is 7% per year in California, typically speaking. After 3 years, my property price will go up 21%. Which is pretty much the down payment that I put on the house. My down payment is 20%. So if my property goes up 21% in 3 years, that means I double the amount that I invested in the property every 3 years. So if you're doubling your money every 3 years, it's very hard for something like the stock market or cash flow to do much better than that. And that's why, again, appreciation is good for building your long-term wealth, your net worth, because it's just so much faster than the cash flow buildup. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought and you can decide, are you going to go for the cash flow or the appreciation? Now, step 2 is you're going to go on your sheet of paper and write down familiar markets. So familiar markets are basically the markets that you already know about. Maybe you lived there already in the past. For example, for me, I invested in my alma mater college or nearby my alma mater college where I went to pharmacy school because I knew that area and I knew the students there already and I knew what people were usually paying in rent for off-campus housing. So that's why it's so important to invest in a familiar market because you already have knowledge of what people are charging, where are some of the safer neighborhoods, where are the not so safe neighborhoods. And if you don't know that information off the top of your head, you always have connections in that city potentially that you can go to and ask them those questions. So that's why I think to really increase the chances of your success in real estate, you should really stick with a market that you know about or have lived in or have relatives that live there, or maybe, your children are living there. Maybe your kid is going off to college and you want to do something like a house hack for them where they rent out to their college buddies. That's actually, again, what I did. I saw my friend, he took a house, he bought it, and he rented it out to his college buddies. And not only was he able to live rent free, but he was able to also make some money on top of that because his mortgage payment was pretty low and his cash flow was very high. So after you list out all the markets that you are familiar with, the next thing you're going to want to do is circle the market that you're most drawn towards. Maybe you just have some relatives that are living there right now, or it's just a market that you are the most familiar with. Go ahead and circle one city on that list that you're most familiar with and might be interested in investing in. Once you've done that, step number 3 is to list out these terms, which I'll explain in a bit. There's SFH, MFH, flipping, Airbnb, and student housing. Now, these are all strategies that I've used. In fact, I have another video on the differences between all of these 5 strategies. That video is just called Ranking the Top 5 Real Estate Investment Strategies from Worst to Best. And so you can go ahead and check that video out on my YouTube channel. But basically, SFH stands for single family home, which is the typical house that you think about. Versus MFH is multifamily housing, which a multifamily home has 2 or more units in it. So something like a duplex is 2 units, there's a triplex, which is 3 units, and then quadruplex is 4 units. And what this means is basically like 2 single family homes that are attached together. They have separate entrances, separate exits, but essentially you can have 2 different families in a duplex, 1 in each unit. And so I do like multifamily investing. In fact, I do have some duplexes and I do have a quadruplex. And I'm able to do what I call student housing in both single family homes and multifamily homes. Now there's also flipping, which is, of course, buying a rundown property, renovating it, making it look really nice, and then selling it to a very high income buyer. Or there's Airbnb, which is doing vacation rentals, which are shorter term rentals. And then finally, there is student housing, which is what I do, where I take a house, I divide it up into bedrooms, like 5 or 6 bedrooms, and I rent out by the bedroom to really increase the amount of income that I'm making, but also be able to create affordable housing for the students and healthcare professionals that I provide housing for. So typically using this strategy, let's say I'm renting out $700 per room. That's times 6 bedrooms. That's $4,200 per month in rental income. And that's why that strategy is my favorite strategy and one of the most powerful ones out there today. Okay, so step number 4, you're going to go ahead and write on your paper, realtor list. So step number 4, realtor list. You're going to want to list out all the realtors that you find. What I do is I go on Yelp or I'll go to Zillow Agent Finder. And actually, a lot of my best realtors are from Yelp. And what I do is I look for at least 5 to 10 years of experience in that specific market that you're looking to invest in. So let's say you're looking to invest in Jacksonville, Florida. What you're going to want to do is just type in Jacksonville, Florida, Yelp, best realtors, or something like this, or Jacksonville, Florida realtors on Google and read through some of the Google reviews. And what you're going to look for again is making sure that they have at least 5 years of market experience. You'll also look for things like, are they a real estate investor themselves, or have they been working with other real estate investors to buy houses? So let's say you're investing in Jacksonville, Florida. What you're going to want to do is Google Jacksonville, Florida realtors and read through the Google reviews. You also do the same thing on Yelp. And you can also do the same thing on Zillow Agent Finder. And you'll look for people who have either are a real estate investor themselves, or they have worked with other real estate investors before. That way they know exactly what you're looking for, a little bit, more what you're looking for as a real estate investor versus if you are buying a house to start a family. Because a real estate investor, obviously the cash flow, return on investment, those things are a lot more important to you versus somebody who's looking to start a family. So make sure that they've either worked with investors before or are a real estate investor themselves. And then you also want to look for responsiveness. Usually I want somebody who can get back to me within 24 hours. So if I text them, call them, leave a voicemail, I want them to call me back within 24 hours because I need somebody who can really act quickly in real estate, because real estate is a speed game. And if a property pops up on the market, I typically want to put an offer on that property within the first 24 hours of it popping up on the market. And then finally, the last thing I look for in a realtor is I want them to be honest and sincere. So I want them to go into a house and tell me, hey, don't buy this house because it has X, Y, and Z problems. I don't want somebody who's just presenting the house and wanting me to buy the most expensive house because they're going to get the highest commission by virtue of me buying the most expensive house. No, I want somebody who can literally tell me, stay away from this deal. This is why, these are the problems with this house. Here are some of the red flags. I want somebody like that. So those are the main criteria I use to look for a really good realtor. So what you're going to want to do is, again, item number 4, create a list of realtors and choose the realtor that makes the most sense, that meets the most of that criteria that I just went over. So step number 5 is to do a property list. So write on your paper, property list, and what you're going to do is, in the city that you're thinking of investing in, you're going to look up some properties and start doing some deal analysis for some practice. Now, let's say you're not too sure what neighborhood to invest in. What I would do is just go to Reddit and then type in your city, like let's say Jacksonville, Florida, Reddit, best places to live. And what you want to do is find those neighborhoods that everyone likes to stay in, because those are the neighborhoods that are going to be the safe neighborhoods and are going to appreciate pretty well and also have the highest chance of making cash flow, depending on what strategy you use, of course. Now, what I do is student housing, so I want to be very close to the colleges as well as the local medical centers and hospitals, because I specifically rent out to healthcare workers and students. And so by being conveniently located nearby the hospital and nearby the university, I end up getting a ton of students and healthcare professionals. So that's my strategy. So what I try to do, again, is I will use Reddit and I'll just type in, let's say, University of Florida, best places to live off campus. And I'll specifically look for areas that graduate students are housing and are typically very popular for graduate students. Now, to find actual deals, you can just go to Zillow.com and just type in the city, type in the zip code if you wanted to. You can search by zip code, and then just start filtering by the criteria you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. So go ahead and put in Zillow that filter, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom or more house. Let's say you're looking for single-family homes and multifamily homes only. You're going to go ahead and check mark the box that says homes and multifamily, and so that will only filter for single-family homes and multifamily homes. So go ahead and play with that, and then go ahead and list out some property addresses on step number 5 on your sheet. Maybe list about 5 addresses that you'll go ahead and analyze those deals. Finally, step number 6 and the last step on your sheet will be the deal analysis step. So go ahead and write deal analysis. So right here, deal analysis. What you're going to want to do is start analyzing each of those deals that you wrote out in step 5. So to analyze a deal, you basically have to first calculate the cash flow. So the cash flow is your rental income minus your mortgage payment minus miscellaneous expenses. So let's start off with finding out the rental income. To figure that out, I like to go to rentometer.com and then type in the addresses in step number 5, and then go ahead and click on look up what the rent is, what the average rent is. It'll tell you what the average rent is. It'll tell you the low or end of the range and the higher end of the range of the rent, so that you can get a really good sense of how much you can charge for the whole property. Now, if you are renting out individual bedrooms, what you're going to want to do instead is go to Facebook and look up Facebook housing groups. And like a typical example might be Jacksonville, Florida housing, Jacksonville, Florida roommate sublets, Jacksonville, Florida apartments, and you want to see what people are charging on a per bedroom basis using those sites. Another great one is to go to Craigslist rooms and shares, and that will also show you what people are charging on a per bedroom basis. Once you have the per bedroom price, you just multiply by the number of bedrooms. So let's say there's $700 a month per bedroom times 6 bedrooms. That means you're going to be making $4,200 a month in rental income. Now, the next step we have to figure out is your mortgage payment, monthly mortgage payment. So for that, I go to Carl's Mortgage Calculator. Carl's is spelled Karl''S. And what you're going to want to do is just put in your price point there, what your down payment is, and fill out all that information. If you're struggling with figuring out what the tax amount is, what you can do is just type in property tax, whatever city you're in. So Jacksonville, Florida, property tax percentage, or something like this, and that will tell you the approximate tax rate. You can also go to the county tax assessor's website and give them a call and then ask them, this specific property, what's the tax implications per year on an annual basis. Okay, and then finally, you have to figure out what your home insurance costs will be. Typically, it's about 0.6% of the total cost of the property. But to get a quote, all you have to do is go to a company like State Farm or another home insurance company out there and ask them for a quote on a specific property. But with that being said, I think using 0.6% and multiplying it by the total cost of the property, that gives you an okay measure, or at least a default on how much you'll be paying in insurance. Okay, so once you figure out all of that and plugged it into Carl's Mortgage Calculator, it'll spit out a number, and you can use that as your mortgage calculation number. The last part is miscellaneous expenses. Usually I set aside anywhere from $250 to $300 per month to just replace things like appliances, eventually replace things like the roof, HVAC, etc. So let's say we took my rental income of, let's say it's $4,000 a month, and my mortgage payment is $2,000 a month. Well, $4,000 minus $2,000 is $2,000, and then we subtract out $300 for miscellaneous costs. That leaves you with $1,700 per month that you would be making in cash flow. So that's pretty much how you do the deal analysis. Now, typically, I want to have a cash flow of at least $1,500 per month after all expenses before I invest into a property. So hopefully that whole process helps you guys. I try to really simplify it so it's very easy to follow, and you know exactly what to do to create your plan for buying your first rental in 2025. If you guys have any questions for me, please make sure to leave it down in the comments below, and I'll read them and get back to you. But you can also go ahead and like my videos and subscribe so that you get access to all the videos as they're released, and also share it with your friends who are struggling with getting started in real estate investing so that it can reach more people who are trying to get started. My name is Ryan Chaw. Thank you again for watching my video, and I'll see you on next week's video.